My House of Horrors Chapter 131 to 140. The mannequins made from the dollmaker's talent were very strange. 24 mannequins were standing or sitting inside the classroom. Even Chen Ge was having a hard time dealing with this scene. Muyang High School cannot be opened so easily. If these 24 lingering spirits go on a rampage, they'll probably scare people to death. All the mannequins were personally made by him. He could feel the changes that had happened to the mannequins after they put on the school uniform. It felt like all the mannequins had gained a soul. It was as if the mannequins standing before him were not props but real people. Due to the limitation of manpower and funds, not many haunted houses would have more than 10 actors in the same scenario. The lack of manpower had been a problem that had been bothering Chen Ge, but now that problem had been solved. To have 24 professional actors in the same scenario was something that only the best haunted house could have. I'm already looking forward to it. This 2-star scenario might be able to boost the reputation of haunted house to a whole new level. After decorating the classroom, Chen Ge placed the student name tags that were scattered on the lectern into paper boxes. Muyang High School has no exit, only one entrance. The original escape rule is no longer suitable. I need to come up with a new game rule. He narrowed his eyes and hid the 24 name tags at different corners of Muyang High School. Only those who find 20 name tags within 20 minutes will be considered cleared. If all of them are found, the ticket will be refunded, and there will be a cash reward. This will not only stimulate the visitors, it will also increase the game's interaction. Chen Ge's haunted house was expanding rapidly, and he had been thinking about how to make his haunted house more interesting. This search for the name tags was a good attempt for Chen Ge. I need to add more elements. My goal is not to build a scary haunted house but to create the world's first horror theme park. When he was hiding the name tags, Chen Ge realized that the scenario at Muyang High School had expanded. There was a new junction at the end of the corridor, and there were 3 adjacent old rooms. The room numbers were still hanging on the doors: 302, 303, and 304. The 1-star scenario's room of 3 was unlocked next to Muyang High School. The two merged perfectly, but the path inside the haunted house became more complicated. All the scenarios are adjacent to each other. If this continues, the entire underground parking lot will be filled with my scary scenarios. The roads will intersect with each other, and it will truly be called a maze of terror. Retracing his steps, Chen Ge returned to the first floor of the haunted house. He adjusted his clothes, walked to the door, and pushed open the gate. The sun shone on her body. It was a good day to go sightseeing. When it was almost 9 p.m., Shu Wan arrived at the haunted house. Chen Ge had her put on makeup first and then enter the Minghan scenario to await further orders. As the number of visitors increased, Chen Ge's haunted house became the only experience at New Century Park that required a queue. To ensure that more visitors could experience it, Chen Ge called Shu Shu and asked him to arrange for someone to buy tickets. To his surprise, after a while, Shu Shu came running over on his own. There aren't many people in the other projects, and I have nothing better to do. Do you need me to go to the ticket counter to sell the tickets? There's no need, just do whatever you want. Leaving the outside to Shu Shu, Chen Ge returned to the staff break room. He flipped over the bed board and used fake blood to write the introduction of Muyang High School and the rules of the game on the back. When he carried the board out, the crowd started to stir. A new scary scenario. This introduction is too scary. School horror stories, I like them. The crowd's attention was instantly attracted. After all, the ticket price was the same, and the few at the front of the line all requested to enter the new scenario. Everyone, listen to me. Chen Ge placed the board at the entrance. This new scenario is very scary. There were professional actors and the best props in the country. When the scenario was being tested, a detective studio came to visit. They tried to take pictures of the details of the scenario, but no one expected that they would accidentally take pictures of something so horrifying. The 2 people who went in to visit are still lying in the hospital. Quote. Shu Shu saw how proud Chen Ge was of himself, and he did not know what to say. He could not understand why someone was so proud of something that almost scared people out of their wits. What did they capture? Why don't you tell us? There are 100,000 cows flying in the sky. I don't believe they can send people to the hospital. Stop nagging, this is the scenario I want to play. You make it sound like we've never been to a school before. Today, I'll take a step back and write my name backwards. Chen Ge waited for the visitors to finish before continuing. The reason I'm saying all this is to tell you that this scenario is not open to everyone. Only those who have cleared the previous scenarios will be allowed to enter this scenario. Quote. His meaning was clear. To enter Muyang High School, one had to clear either Minghan or murder by midnight. The levels of terror were something he had planned from the very beginning. Are you trying to scam us? Once Chen Ge said that, someone complained, we have to pay every time we enter your haunted house, isn't that forcing us to pay? You're bullying your customers. You're too arrogant. Quote. I'm here because your haunted house has so many good reviews. That's not fair at all. There are so many requirements for visiting a haunted house. Can we just give up? I don't believe this haunted house can be that scary. Quote. Chen Ge had expected this reaction from the visitors. After they finished, he patted the bed and said, I'm not trying to scam you. The entrance fee is the best proof. To show my sincerity, how about we make a bet? He took out the unspent reward money from his pocket and placed it next to the bed. Here's 20,000 RMB. I've hidden the name tags of 24 students inside the new Muyang High School scenario. If any of you can find all 24 name tags within 20 minutes, this 20,000 RMB is yours. Quote. Entrance fee. 20,000 RMB. 1,000 times. Quote. How do we know how many name tags are inside the haunted house? What if you've only hidden 23? Doesn't that mean we'll never be able to find all of them? Quote. Some of the visitors asked, but Chen Ge was too lazy to explain. When one of you can walk out of the new scenario normally, you can come and ask me that question. He had hidden the 24 name tags very well, and a few of them were hidden in places that no one would expect. Such arrogance. Why do I feel so eager even though I know it might be a scam? Allow me. The atmosphere was hyped up. Chen Ge handed the 20,000 RMB to Shu Shu for safekeeping. Today is the first day that the new scenario and rules are officially opened. Due to the lack of promotion, many people do not know about this, so today is the only day that everyone can choose the new scenario to visit. With regards to the rules for winning the cash prize, I've explained it very clearly. Only one person can enter, and each person can only enter once a day. The name tags will be reset the next day. Now, who's willing to take this 20,000 yuan home? Quote. Earlier, they had been shouting loudly, but when it came to the time for a person to enter, the visitors looked at each other, and no one dared to step forward. Chen Ge looked around and noticed 6 people huddled together at the back of the group. They seemed to be discussing something. After a while, 5 of them walked over. Boss, we don't want to challenge the haunted house, we just want to visit. Can the 5 of us come together? The leading young man asked Chen Ge. The 6 of them were obviously in the same group. 5 of them would enter the haunted house to get to know the situation and then come out to talk to the last person. The last person would enter the haunted house alone to find the name tags and complete the challenge. Chen Ge knew that they were trying to take advantage of the loophole, but he did not mind it. Okay, the 5 of you can come together, but I have to warn you first. Do not use your phone to take pictures or videos inside the haunted house because it's easy to capture something strange. Quote. 5 people, this is 100 RMB. The young man smiled and did not listen to Chen Ge's warning. After taking the money, Chen Ge looked at the 5 visitors who were trying to play tricks, and a professional smile appeared on his face. Come with me. Chen Ge's smile was very comforting. The 5 visitors did not notice anything wrong, but it was Shu Shu next to him who shivered. He thought about it and stopped Chen Ge. He whispered into Chen Ge's ear, they are just normal visitors. They have no grudge against us, so you have to control yourself. Yes, I know. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Shu Shu had put in a lot of effort for Chen Ge's haunted house. We'll happily send the visitors in and then bring them out safely. Isn't that a good idea? Okay. Don't worry, everything is under control. With Shu Shu's repeated reminders, Chen Ge led the 5 visitors to the first floor of the haunted house. Sign the disclaimer first. Chen Ge took out a few pieces of paper from under the table and handed them to the 5 visitors. The precautions are all written on them. You can take a look. That's quite formal. The leader signed his name without even looking at it. His name was Wang Heilong. He was 1.85 meters tall, and he appeared to be around the same age as Chen Ge. Boss, Does the reward that you mentioned outside count? If someone really manages to find all 24 name tags, you won't regret it, right? The slightly shorter man next to Wang Heilong was called Wang Wenlong. The two should be biological brothers because they looked alike, but their personalities were different. As a shop owner, the most important thing is honesty. Chen Ge had a professional smile on his face. The reward for entering the haunted house alone and finding all 24 name tags is 20,000. Boss, can we discuss this? If all 5 of us find all 24 name tags, can you reward us with 5,000? The person who spoke seemed to be Wang Heilong's girlfriend. She was wearing hot pants and an unlined shirt. Her top was unbuttoned, and there was a flying butterfly tattoo on her beautiful collarbone. The girl's name was Do Menglu. She was beautiful, but her handwriting was ugly. No problem. The main purpose of our visit is to have fun. As long as you can find all the name tags within 20 minutes, the reward will be 5,000. Chen Ge looked at the group of visitors with a smile. That's great. Next time, I'll ask my brothers to come and support you, Wang Heilong said as he put down the pen in his hand. Then I'll thank you in advance. What a kind and passionate visitor. Chen Ge was touched. Since you're done, follow me. A friendly reminder, do not stay in the last classroom for too long. The group came to the end of the corridor on the first floor. Chen Ge pulled back the wooden plank on the ground. There are many legends circulating around this abandoned school. Whether you believe them or not, you have to be careful. After entering, no photos or videos are allowed. Violators will have to bear the consequences. Quote. It's underground. The 5 of them looked at the dim underground tunnel. They could vaguely see something moving back and forth inside. Holy shish asterisk T, what is that? Fatty, who hadn't spoken all this while, took a step back. He had a big belly, small eyes, and wasn't very courageous. Pei Hu, we haven't even entered and you're already turning into a sick cat. Wang Heilong tugged at Pei Hu's chubby arm. It's all fake. If you're afraid, stand behind Meili. 2 grown men chattering. Are we going in or not? The one who spoke was another woman. She looked fierce, not tall, and her body was about the same size. Even though she tried her best to dress up, when she stood next to Do Menglu, she looked like a supporting leaf. Chen Ge glanced at her disclaimer. The woman's name was Sha Meili. What's the hurry? Wang Heilong winked at Chen Ge. Boss, we'll start the timer after we go down. Okay. Chen Ge pretended to take out his phone and started the timer. After sending the 5 visitors underground, he closed the wooden plank and put his phone away. Timer. That was impossible. The fact that they could walk out was already a miracle. Entering the dressing room, Chen Ge put on Dr. Skullcracker's outfit and put on the mask before entering the control room. He searched for the background music and thought about it. He did not play Black Friday on repeat. Shu Shu has a point. We're in the service industry, so we should consider the visitors. He moved the mouse, lowered the volume, opened Wedding Dress, and added it to the playlist. Listening to the same song all the time, even the visitors will get sick of it. The wooden plank above them was closed. The 5 visitors stood in the dim corridor, looking at the half-open classroom doors, and they could hear the rustling sound in their ears. This place is so big. Pei Hu nudged backward to stand next to Sha Meili. Of course, how can they hide so many name tags in such a small space? The boss is not an idiot. Wang Wenlong, who was the thinnest, was the first to walk forward. Let's hurry. There are 5 of us looking for 24 name tags, so the chance is high. After we win the 5,000, we'll go out for hot pot and karaoke. Quote. Since we're already here, why are we still standing there? Listen to my little brother. Wang Heilong strode forward, and when he passed the door of the first classroom, he suddenly stopped. This sudden movement spooked the people behind him. Do Menglu followed closely behind him and whispered, Heilong, what did you see? Look at you guys. What's there to be afraid of? He kicked open the classroom door, and the name tags that hung on the door fell to the ground. It's just so random. Quote. He picked up the name tags. A girl's name was written on it, Chen Yalin. This name tags are placed at such an obvious spot. It's probably to tell us what the name tags look like and what they look like. Wang Wenlong accepted the name tags. Every name tags has a name on it, and the edges are yellowed. They look like they're from many years ago, so they won't be easily replicated. What's the point of talking so much? We've only been here for less than 10 seconds, and we've already found one. As long as we're not afraid, finding the remaining 23 shouldn't be a problem. Wang Heilong took back the name tags and continued to move forward. The rest of the group slowly lowered their guard. They moved deeper into Muyang High School. The cold wind ruffled the papers on the ground. No one noticed that even though all 5 of them were wearing shoes, there were blurry footprints on the papers. The temperature dropped even lower, and a strange nursery rhyme came from somewhere in the dark corridor. It sounded like someone was crying, but at the same time, it sounded like someone was laughing. The atmosphere became more and more eerie. It felt like something was hiding in the classrooms on both sides, and it felt like there were pairs of eyes watching them in the dark. There's nothing to be afraid of, but how come I feel so uneasy? To find the name tags faster, the 5 split up. Sha Meili and Wang Wenlong searched the classroom on the left, and the rest searched the classroom on the right. They checked the drawers of the earlier classrooms, but they did not find any name tags. This haunted house's boss is quite something. We need to move forward, we can't waste any more time. Wang Heilong walked at the front, and when he passed the last classroom, he suddenly stopped. What's wrong, Brother Long? Another name tags? Pei Hu poked his head in the direction that Wang Heilong had stopped, and with just a glance, a chill rushed into his brain. There was a man standing by the window, and the expression on his face appeared to be one of laughter. The scariest thing was, looking through the window, behind this mannequin, there were more than 20 people standing or sitting. Pei Hu staggered back several steps before he regained his balance. His face was white as a sheet. Are you alright? What did you see? Wang Wenlong and Sha Meili rushed over. Ignore him, it's just a small disturbance. Look at how scared he is. Wang Heilong's legs were shaking, and his face was twitching, but he forced himself to be calm. It's just a few mannequins. Even though they were mentally prepared, when the other 3 arrived, they were still shocked. The sudden appearance of more than 20 figures in the dim classroom was scary enough. The scarier thing was that they all turned their heads to look in the same direction. Some of the mannequins' necks were even turned 180 degrees, and their heads were hanging from their backs. Who could stand that? I was wondering why the previous scenarios weren't scary at all. So, they're waiting for their ultimate. Wang Wenlong was relatively calm. He took out his phone and turned on the flashlight. Wenlong, the boss said not to use the phone, Sha Meili reminded him. He can't see it anyway. It'll be fine. Wang Wenlong shone the light into the last classroom, and the light passed the mannequins. They should all be mannequins. When the light shone into their eyes, none of them blinked. Wait a minute, I see the name tags, there are 2 of them. Quote. Where? They're on the mannequin's jacket. Wang Wenlong shone the light in a certain direction, and the group turned to look. One of the mannequins in the middle of the classroom had a name tags hanging from its collar, and the other name tags were placed on the innermost table. To obtain these 2 name tags, one had to walk through all the mannequins. The boss of this haunted house is too wicked. It's fine if there's only 5 of us, but if we follow his rules and enter the haunted house alone to look for the name tags, we'll be scared witless. That's enough. Don't look down on us. Wang Heilong paced back and forth before he felt the numbness in his calves. There's still enough time. There must be many name tags in this classroom. We not only need to go in to look for them, but we need to flip through the room to find all of them. Quote. Brother Long, please reconsider. There's no need to put your life on the line for 5,000 yuan. Pei Hu had been scared out of his wits, and his mind was in a mess. Is it as serious as you say? Cut the crap and come here. Wang Heilong dragged Pei Hu to the door of the last classroom. Why am I the first to enter? Pei Hu displayed a strong desire to survive. I'm just afraid that you'll run away. If you're as timid as a mouse, how can you live up to your name? Wang Heilong pushed Pei Hu into the last classroom before turning to Do Menglu and Sha Meili. The 3 of us will go in first. If there's nothing else, you 2 can come in. Okay, be careful. It's fine. Wenlong just looked inside. It's all fake people. Wang Heilong and Wang Wenlong also entered the classroom. The 3 of them stood on the podium and looked down. Immediately, their hair stood on end and their scalps went numb. This is too crazy. It's full of people, and there's not even a place to stand. Pei Hu, you're a coward. Go and get the name tag in the middle of the classroom. Wenlong, search the drawers and give me the name tag that's furthest away. Wang Heilong was acting like a big brother. Even though Pei Hu was unwilling, he did not say anything. Brother Long, these mannequins look weird. Their eyes seem to be moving. Pei Hu shrank back before he even stepped off the podium. Will it kill you to speak less? Wang Heilong was also flustered by Pei Hu's words. It's normal to have negative emotions when looking at mannequins. The boss probably made use of the uncanny valley effect. Anything that looks like a human will trigger our instinctive disgust. Wang Wenlong came up with an explanation, but even he could not convince himself. Enough. Stop talking. The boss is counting down from outside. We have 20 minutes to find all the name tags. Let's not waste time. Wang Heilong then walked off the podium and headed to the innermost corner of the classroom. Brother Long sure is generous. Pei Hu walked to the table in the middle hesitantly. He was rather fat, so when he walked off the podium, his stomach bumped into a mannequin that was standing next to him, and the mannequin wobbled slightly. The designer must have been traumatized when he was young, Pei Hu grumbled, but before he could finish, he felt someone knock into his back. Wenlong. He turned to look, and Wang Wenlong was about 3 meters away from him. Who touched me? He was stunned as he turned to look at the mannequin that was still wobbling. The mannequin was very realistic, like a real person. If one did not look closely, one would not be able to tell it was real. It was this mannequin that touched me. Pei Hu shivered. He did not dare to stay any longer and walked to the table in the middle. The one sitting there was a girl. Her uniform was different from the others, it was stained with blood like she had suffered something painful in the last moments of her life. Pei Hu looked at the name tag on the girl's collar and summoned all his courage to reach out his fat hand. His fingertip got closer and closer to the girl. Just as it was about to touch the girl's neck, the girl, who had her head turned toward the window, suddenly moved. What the F***ck? Pei Hu's hand bounced back like it had been electrocuted. She really moved. Could it be someone in disguise? He looked around. Wang Heilong was still at the innermost part of the classroom, and Wang Wenlong was not far from him. His friends were all there, and this gave Pei Hu some courage. He reached out again and finally grabbed the name tag. I did it. Even though it was not that big of a deal, Pei Hu was still happy. However, just as he was about to pull his hand back, he realized that someone had tied a rope through the name tag and tied it around the girl's neck. What the F***ck? There must be some kind of poison. He wanted to hack the boss to death. Holding the name tag, he took another step forward. The classroom was very dark, and he could not see clearly. He took out the flashlight on his phone and bent down to get close to the girl. Perhaps it was his imagination, but when the light from the phone shone on the girl's face, the mannequin's expression seemed to change. Pei Hu did not notice this. He held the phone and stood behind the girl, his head lowered as he tried to untie the rope. However, just as he was concentrating, Wang Wenlong suddenly sucked in a cold breath and said in a broken voice, "Something's not right. How come it feels like this mannequin has been following me?" The young face was dotted with purple blood spots. She had a pair of bright eyes, and her lips were thin. When she smiled, she looked beautiful. This was the first time that Pei Hu had been so close to a girl. Looking at the face that was twisted 180 degrees, his mind went blank. How did this happen? For the first time, I wasn't rejected by a girl, and I wasn't scared away by fear. The two happy events overlapped. And these two kinds of happiness brought me even more happiness. This should have been a dream-like blissful time, but why? How did this happen? Quote. The mannequin with its head dangling from the back blinked its eyes, and the delicate skin seemed to have turned purple from suffocation. Looking at the protruding eyes, Pei Hu was dumbfounded. Help me. A loud male voice came from Muyang High School. Pei Hu grabbed the name tag and ran out of the classroom. The name tag was tied to the mannequin's neck, and the mannequin's body was yanked up. The surrounding tables and chairs were all knocked over, and all the mannequins in the classroom started to move. Pei Hu rushed toward the classroom door. The commotion he had created scared Wang Wenlong, who had suspected that the mannequin was following him. Without a word, he rushed toward the door. The two of them were very close to the classroom door, one in front of the other, but it was Wang Heilong, who had walked to the innermost part of the classroom alone. The mannequins in the room were knocked over, heads rolled, and limbs fell. It looked like they had all come back to life. F***ck. What's going on? Brother Long, who stood at the corner of the classroom, felt like he had fallen into hell. This was a scene that he would never forget. Wait for me. He grabbed the name tag on the table and scrambled to get out from the pile of mannequins. Before he could get out, he heard Pei Hu scream again. Don't chase me, don't chase me. Pei Hu had forgotten that the name tag was tied to the mannequin's neck. In a panic, he dragged the mannequin with him to the classroom door. Don't chase me. He felt like there was something crawling on his back. When he exited the classroom, he did not think twice and slammed the door shut. What the f***ck? Behind him, Brother Long's mouth was contorted in anger. He ran at full speed and could not stop in time. His head crashed into the door. Boom. He sat on the floor. In the dark classroom, heads were rolling around, and countless pairs of eyes were staring at him. The faces of the mannequins swayed before Wang Heilong's eyes. He felt like he could not summon any strength. His body was cold, and his eyes were filled with tears. Pei Hu, f***cku. Outside the last classroom, Pei Hu and Wang Wenlong rushed out. They leaned against the wall and gasped for air. That scared me to death. There's something wrong with this classroom. There's definitely something wrong. The puppets can move. She winked at me. Quote. Pei Hu, your back. Look at your back. Quote. The two women screamed in shock, and Pei Hu came back to his senses. He turned around and saw that the girl doll was hanging from his body. He trembled in fear and hurriedly threw the doll into the middle of the corridor. The mannequin fell to the ground, and the beautiful artificial head rolled off its body. The strange smile on its face stopped in the corner. It was this mannequin that smiled at me, and it followed me out. Pei Hu was still shaken. How about we give up? This haunted house is too powerful. No wonder the boss dared to throw out 20,000, no one can complete it within the time limit. We've only been here for 4 minutes, and we're giving up. Where will we hide our faces? Wang Wenlong took a long time to recover. The classroom should be the hardest scenario. Now that we've found the name tags, I think there's still a chance of success. If you want to play, then go ahead. I'm leaving. Wait a minute. Do Menglu, who had been quiet, looked into the classroom. Wait, why are only the two of you out? Where's Brother Long? Quote. Brother Long. Pei Hu and Wang Wenlong looked around, and their faces shifted. He's still inside. The two hurried to open the classroom door. Brother Long was lying at the edge of the podium, and there were still traces of tears at the corner of his eyes. Brother Long, why are you still in there? Quote. His lips were purple, and hearing that, Brother Long's eyes were wet. You two still have the face to ask me why I'm still in there. I also want to know why I'm in there. Help me up. Quote. After trying a few times, Wang Heilong finally stood up. He moved his hands, and his knuckles cracked. Brother Long, let's just forget about it. Let's go to the entrance and sit there for 20 minutes. Then we'll go out and pretend to look around for 20 minutes. We don't have to be afraid of embarrassing ourselves, Wang Wenlong suggested in a low voice. Only you can think of that. Wang Heilong silently rubbed his eyes. Pretending to visit the haunted house is equivalent to admitting that we are useless. Remember, there are no ghosts in this world. This is all a trick played by the haunted house's boss. Perhaps he is watching us through the surveillance. Brother Long has a point. If we really sit at the entrance and the boss opens the wooden boards, how awkward will that be? Sha Meili stood on Brother Long's side. But we still don't know how big this scenario is. What if we run into something even scarier if we continue to move forward? Pei Hu said with a sad face. We haven't even seen a single haunted house worker, and we're already so scared. I think we shouldn't force ourselves. Cut the crap. We haven't gotten even with the two of you for leaving me alone in the classroom, and now you want to rebel. Wang Heilong glared at the two of them. Look at how useless you two are. You're worse than two girls. It wasn't us who cried earlier, Wang Wenlong grumbled softly. Wang Wenlong grumbled, but Wang Heilong pretended not to hear him and continued. We have to pick ourselves up from where we fell. I think we still have 10 minutes. If we hurry, we should have a chance to find all the name tags. Then he raised his hand, and there was a name tags in his palm. This is the one I found in the innermost part of the classroom. Including Pei Hu and the first name tags, we have 3. 4, and I found one in the drawer. Wang Wenlong took out the name tags that he had found. Very good. Even though the process is a bit complicated, the result is good. Wang Heilong pocketed all the name tags. Actually, if you think about it, there's nothing scary about this classroom. It's just a bunch of very realistic mannequins. The key is that we can't panic, especially you, Pei Hu. Don't keep acting like this. But I really saw the mannequin blink. At the time, her face changed, like someone was strangling her neck and suffocating her. Pei Hu felt wronged. Forget it. If you're afraid, stand behind Meili and stuff your mouth. Wang Heilong waved his hand impatiently and walked deeper into Mu Yang High School. Hearing a man's scream coming from inside the Muyang High School scenario, Chen Ge quickly peeled back the wooden boards and ran in. This was the first day that Muyang High School was open to the public, so he was worried that the mannequins might not know what to do. Chen Yalin's name tag has already been taken away. Didn't these people suspect it might be a trap? Hopefully, they won't use the name tag to provoke the pen spirit. Chen Ge walked down the corridor to the last classroom. The mannequin on the ground was hugging its own head like it was trying to attach it to its shoulder, but it could not find the right spot. Why is this mannequin outside? Chen Ge glanced into the classroom. The tables and chairs were toppled, and a few mannequins' heads had fallen off. They must have been scared out of their wits. They probably wouldn't bring the mannequins outside. Picking up the mannequin, Chen Ge leaned her against the wall and installed the head. He looked into the mannequin's eyes. Perhaps it was the light, but he felt like the mannequin had a soul. He could even feel a trace of fear and shyness. Taking out the black phone, Chen Ge flipped through all the pages, but there was no option related to controlling the lingering spirit of the mannequin. In the end, he told the mannequin, "You can leave the classroom, but you can't leave the Muyang High School scenario, understand?" The mannequin did not respond. Chen Ge did not care whether it understood him or not. He placed her by the side of the road and entered the last classroom to reassemble the mannequin. Of the 4 name tags hidden in the classroom, 3 have been taken away. This group of people is quite cunning. Chen Ge moved lightly. When he passed the middle table, he saw something beside the table leg. Why is there a phone here? Did you hear someone talking behind you? Pei Hu's legs were shaking. He kept turning back, and even Sha Meili could not stand it anymore. Big cat, if you're really afraid, stay here and wait for us to come back. Who are you talking about? Meili, you didn't see what happened. The classroom was very dark, and I had to use the light from the phone to get a good look. Just as I was focused on untying the rope, the mannequin's head suddenly turned toward me. Now that he thought about it, Pei Hu was still a little scared. He gestured with his hands for a long time before he suddenly touched his pants pocket. Oh no, I was busy picking up the name tag, and I think I dropped my phone in the classroom. Quote. Then hurry up and go get it. What's the point of telling me? Sha Meili looked at Pei Hu with disdain. You want me to get it alone? Pei Hu turned back to look with a pained expression. Muyang High School scenario was eerie, and he had lost his phone. There was not even a light. Oh well, I'll get the workers to look for it after I leave this place. He chased after the people in front of him. The 5 tourists stopped in the middle of the first junction. Just how big is this haunted house? It's fine if we split into 2 paths, but we can't even see the end of both paths. Pei Hu squeezed his way to Wang Heilong's side. Brother Long, turn back before it's too late. Quote. Get lost. Wang Heilong was also worried, but he did not show it before Do Menglu. We've already spent 1/3 of the experience time, and there are still 20 name tags left. The 5 of us walking together is like walking alone, it's such a waste. How about this? Wenlong and Pei Hu will go down the left path, and I'll bring Menglu and Meili to the right path. What do you think? Quote. We have no objections. The 2 girls were the first to express their opinions. I have no objections either. Even if we fail this challenge, we should explore all the scenarios to pave the way for our brothers. Wang Wenlong's mind was clear. Then it's settled. Follow me closely. Wang Heilong led the 2 girls to the path that led to the female dormitory. F***CK. Can't you at least ask for my opinion? Quote. Alright, Pei Hu, come with me. Wang Wenlong walked ahead, and Pei Hu stomped his feet anxiously. However, he did not dare stay at the junction alone, so he followed unwillingly. There doesn't seem to be anything scary here. Wang Wenlong and Pei Hu reached the end of the path. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The end of the corridor branched off into 2 narrow paths. At the end of one path was an old well, and at the end of the other path was the door of a room. There was a number 303 hanging on the door. Let's go together. Pei Hu grabbed Wang Wenlong's arm and refused to let go. We definitely can't separate anymore. Wang Wenlong looked into the distance. Why do you think the haunted house purposely built a well at the end of the path? There's probably a ghost actor hiding inside. That's possible. The evil boss always hides name tags near scare points, so I believe there's at least one inside the well. Wang Wenlong was certain. Come, let's go take a look. The 2 walked to the well and looked in. The well was less than 2 meters deep. Wang Wenlong took out his phone to shine the light inside. As he expected, there were 2 name tags at the bottom of the well. This is too easy. Pei Hu took a step back. He would never jump into a well to pick up the name tags. Don't be too careless. We haven't seen anything scary along the way, so there has to be something special about this well. Wang Wenlong leaned against the edge of the well and shone the light at every corner. He did not find anything out of place, it was just a normal old well. Am I being too sensitive? Wang Wenlong soon sighed. There were many name tags, and it was not easy to hide each one so well. He passed the phone to Pei Hu. You stay outside and shine the light. I'll go down to pick up the name tags. Okay. Pei Hu's expression relaxed. As long as he was not told to go down to pick up the name tags, everything would be fine. After all, with his size, it would be hard for him to come back up. Wang Wenlong had a well-proportioned body, and he looked like someone who trained regularly. Pei Hu, after I go down, if you dare run off on your own, don't blame me for what I do to you after we leave the haunted house. What do you take me for? Just like what you said, is this something that a human can do? Hurry up. Pei Hu seemed to be angry. You guys keep underestimating me. Today, I'll prove it to you. Without waiting for him to finish, Wang Wenlong jumped into the well. Bang! The pitch-black well was much deeper than it looked from the outside. Wang Wenlong could feel this directly. This well seems to have suddenly become deeper. After he jumped into the well, he realized that there was a layer of soft sand under his feet. Looks like I was right. This is indeed a scare point set up by the haunted house boss. To prevent the visitors from falling and injuring themselves, he even added a layer of sand. He touched the walls of the well. Some places were very smooth, while others were scratched. It was as if a living person was buried in the well, and in order to escape, he used his fingers to scratch the walls of the well bit by bit. Something's not right. Standing inside the well, Wang Wenlong had a strange feeling like he had fallen into a deep sea, and his body was sinking. His chest felt heavy, and he did not dare stop. He bent down to pick up the name tags on the ground. His fingers touched the edge of the name tags. When he picked them up, Wang Wenlong realized that there was something underneath them. It was about the size of a thumb, and it was buried in the sand. A trap. Wang Wenlong was careful. He did not touch the protrusion but brushed away the sand around it. What's hiding under the sand? His fingers had already come into contact with her. Unlike the texture of sand and gravel, it was a much softer and colder feeling. As the sand slid away, a human face appeared. The protrusion was the tip of the face's nose. F***ck. Wang Wenlong pulled his hands back. He had taken a closer look before entering, and he had not noticed anything out of place. This is too evil. It's buried under the sand. Quote. If Wang Wenlong had known there was a body buried under the sand, he would not have jumped into the well alone. He panicked and picked up the 2 name tags from the ground and tossed them into the well. Pei Hu, pull me up, quick. There's a mannequin in the well as well. Quote. There's a mannequin in the well as well. Pei Hu used his phone to take a look, and there was a man's face facing the well. He shivered and reached his hand into the well. This is weird. When you went down earlier, it wasn't so deep. Wang Wenlong grabbed Pei Hu's hand, and his feet stepped on the ghastly gouges on the wall. He was about to pull himself up when he felt something cold touch his ankle. He stepped on it, and he fell back into the well. Wenlong, what's wrong? Something touched me earlier. Wang Wenlong looked at his ankle, but there was nothing there. Could it be a lizard or a bug? I don't know. Wang Wenlong looked around and realized that even if no one touched the sand on the corpse at the bottom of the well, it would slide off on its own. Soon, half of the corpse's body was exposed, and it looked like it was about to sit up. It can move on its own. It can't be a haunted house worker. I jumped down from so high. If I was a real person, I would have screamed when I stepped on it. Wang Wenlong's mind was in a mess, and his thoughts were blurred. Pei Hu, pull me up. He shouted. Pei Hu, who was outside the well, heard Wang Wenlong's voice and quickly reached his hand into the well. Grab me. This time, Pei Hu was very loyal. He held up his phone with one hand and reached into the well with the other. His broad shoulders made him look very reliable. All right. His teammate's voice reassured Wang Wenlong. He grabbed Pei Hu's hand, stepped on the wall, and pushed himself upward. Just as his upper body was about to come out, his suspended legs were suddenly grabbed by someone. What the hell? Halfway through his jump, he was forcefully pulled back. Wang Wenlong turned his head to take a look in disbelief, and the scene that entered his eyes sent a chill down his spine. The face in the fine sand had opened its eyes at some point. The dummy pulled me down. Wang Wenlong looked at the body that was buried in the sand. He had a feeling that the other party's eyes were on him. Isn't this a bit too strange? Leaning against the wall, Wang Wenlong looked up. The light at the mouth of the well seemed to be moving further and further away from him. No, I need to get out of here as soon as possible. Pei Hu. Quote. Shush. I feel like something weird is coming this way. Pei Hu reached into the well to shake Wang Wenlong's hand. Come on, let's try again. Quote. Pei Hu pulled with all his might, but Wang Wenlong seemed to have run into an accident inside the well again. This time, he was careful. When he felt someone grab his calf, he turned his head and looked down. There was nothing on his leg, but from the sand that he had been standing on earlier, another, female body, appeared. There are two dummies buried inside the well. Did I just step on the woman's head? Wang Wenlong's heart chilled, and a worse thought appeared in his mind. Is it possible that there are more dummies underneath the sand? The person who designed the haunted house is crazy, right? To bury the dummies inside the well and wait for the real person to jump down. He grabbed Pei Hu's hand, and his legs kicked wildly in the air, trying to break free from the restraint on his leg. Don't move. I can't hold on any longer. Pei Hu pulled with all his might, and his face was red. He held the edge of the well with one hand, and as he pulled Wang Wenlong up, the feeling of unease grew. Pei Hu kept turning to look around, and when his eyes swept the road that they had come from, his heart skipped a beat. At the first junction of the haunted house stood a girl in a school uniform with her head lowered. The dark uniform was stained with blood, and it made her skin look extra pale. It's the mannequin that I memorized. Pei Hu felt the air around him turn cold, and his arms were shaking. Didn't its head fall off? Did the workers reassemble it and place it at the junction? Yes, that must be it. How could a mannequin move on its own? Quote. Pull harder. The mannequin's eyes are open. Pei Hu had just calmed down when Wang Wenlong's crying voice came from inside the well. His voice was loud, and at the same time, the mannequin at the junction raised its head stiffly. The face that was dotted with purple blood spots looked in the direction of the old well. The head can move, so there's probably a mechanism in the neck. I should have known. Pei Hu took a deep breath and looked away. I can't be interrupted. No matter what, I have to save Wenlong today. He tried to focus, but his eyes kept wandering to the junction. Pei Hu's heart almost leapt out of his chest when he glanced at it. The mannequin that should have been standing at the junction had entered the corridor on the left. She stood in the middle of the road, and she seemed to be smiling. Pei Hu's breathing became rushed, and his palms were sweating. The fat on his body was shaking. Why are you spacing out? His legs felt like they were entangled by seaweed when he was swimming. Wang Wenlong struggled with all his might, and his forehead was covered in sweat. He saw with his own eyes that the man and woman buried in the well had opened their eyes. Now, he could not think of anything other than to escape. Pull me up. Pei Hu gritted his teeth and pulled Wang Wenlong up several centimeters. A cold wind blew from the other side of the corridor, and a soft sound entered his ears. He looked out of the corner of his eyes. In the narrow corridor, the mannequin had fallen. The smiling mannequin seemed to be pushed by a force, and it was flying toward the old well. The girl's suffocating face approached, and Pei Hu's face twisted in fear. At that moment, he once again obeyed the voice in his heart. Without hesitation, he flung Wang Wenlong's hand away and rushed into room 303 at a speed that did not match his size. Pei Hu, Chen Ge, who was fixing the mannequin's head in the last classroom, suddenly heard a man's roar come from the end of the corridor. The voice was filled with complicated emotions, and it was hard to explain in a few words. This shouldn't be a sound of fear. It feels like it's a mixture of shock, anger, and panic. Chen Ge fixed the last mannequin head and walked out of the classroom. These visitors sure are energetic. Pei Hu, who rushed into room 303, leaned against the door, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Damn, Wenlong is still inside the well. Pei Hu's palms were covered in sweat. He looked at Wenlong's phone. I even took his phone. The well is so dark, and there are several mannequins buried inside. Pei Hu did not dare to think any further. He looked into the room. Room 303 was pretty much the same. There was a pile of dirty clothes in the middle of the living room, but the stench was gone. Why would there be a pile of clothes in the room? This room gives me a very uncomfortable feeling. I'd better not go in and just stand at the door. As he muttered to himself, the door behind him suddenly made a dong, dong sound. It sounded like someone was knocking on the door, but the sound came from the foot of the door. A normal person wouldn't knock there, so it can't be Wenlong. Other than Wenlong, there was only one person who could move in the corridor. Pei Hu's expression was dark as he stared at the foot of the door. It's the mannequin's head. The mannequin's head is knocking on the door. Quote. Pei Hu's legs were shaking when he thought about that. He wanted to lock the door, but he realized sadly that the lock was just a decoration. He only needed to push hard to open the door. There should be a window in this room, right? But what if the mannequin's head slips in? Pei Hu scratched his head. He could not just stand there, so he gritted his teeth and walked into the room. The knocking outside the door did not stop, and it was like a death knell. Every knock hammered into Pei Hu's heart. I need to find a way out. Pei Hu started to save himself. He walked past the dirty clothes and walked around the room, but he did not see anything. Outside the window is a thick cement wall. There is no way out. Am I supposed to stay here forever? Pei Hu stood in the middle of the living room. I was just visiting a haunted house, so how did it end up like this? Mannequins blinking, dead bodies hiding in the well, and being chased around by human heads. Was the boss who designed the haunted house a demon? How did he do it? Quote. Bang. Before Pei Hu could figure it out, the door was slammed heavily. So strong. Did that puppet come over? Is she looking for her head again? Just thinking about it was terrifying. Pei Hu looked left and right, and in a moment of desperation, he could only hide in his bedroom. This bedroom doesn't even have a door. He regretted it a little after he came in, but it was too late now. The only place to hide in the bedroom was under the bed. He first shone the light on his phone, and after confirming that there were no strange things under the bed, he directly climbed in. Please, let me go. He struggled to crawl under the bed, put away his phone, and stared at the bedroom door. It was very quiet in the dark room. Any slight sound would be amplified. A few seconds later, the door to the living room was pushed open. After a short period of silence, a strange sound echoed in the living room. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Something seems to be rolling. This thought flashed across Pei Hu's mind. After 0.1 seconds, his legs suddenly straightened, and a chill ran down his spine. I seem to have overlooked something. The gulp was getting closer. When Pei Hu, who was hiding under the bed, looked toward the bedroom door, a human head with a creepy smile was rolling toward the bedroom door. Their eyes met, and time seemed to stop. Wang Heilong led Sha Meili and Do Menglu to the female dormitory. Even though Brother Long had cried several times that day, he was still very calm before his girlfriend. He walked at the front, and he looked through the rooms one by one before stopping at the room where the pen spirit was. This room is different. There were several chairs in the middle of the room, and there was a piece of paper with a sentence written on it. The pen spirit knows the location of the 3 name tags. Wang Heilong picked up the paper and read it aloud. No wonder it looks so familiar. It's the pen spirit game. Do Menglu leaned over curiously. I've seen it many times in the movies, but I didn't expect to see it in real life. It's all fake. It's just a gimmick. Wang Heilong dropped the paper on the chair. We can't miss 3 name tags. Do either of you know the rules of the game? I do. Do Menglu sat on one side of the chair and had Wang Heilong sit on the other. Just follow my instructions. You two, take it easy. You might attract something if you play these random games inside the haunted house. Sha Meili stood at the door and looked at Do Menglu and Wang Heilong. She did not feel good. It's good that the pen spirit is here. I was going to ask her if I'm Brother Long's future wife or not. Do Menglu smiled wickedly. She grabbed the ballpoint pen that was wrapped in clear tape and placed it in the middle of the table. Ask away. Wang Heilong had a calm look on his face. He didn't try to hide anything from others and directly shook Do Menglu's hand. The two of them acted like there was no one else around. Sha Meili pouted and walked out. You two have fun, I'm going for a walk. Don't go too far, Meili. Don't worry about her. Brother Long, listen to me, there are a few taboos when playing the pen spirit game. 1. You can't ask about life and death, and 2. You can't interrupt the game. As long as you pay attention to these, you'll be fine. After Sha Meili exited the room, she felt the air freshen up. There's a sour smell of love. Hopefully, the pen spirit will teach them a lesson. Sha Meili walked to the end of the corridor, and the surroundings became darker. She was about to turn back when she heard Wang Wenlong's scream coming from the other end of the corridor. What happened? Wenlong doesn't sound like he's afraid. If anything, he sounds angry. Sha Meili retraced her steps and entered the other corridor. Where is he? Why are there two paths again? Which way should I go? Sha Meili stopped between the deep well and the few rooms at Hai Ming Apartments. She was unsure. Pei Hu's phone is missing. I'll call Wenlong and ask him. She made the call. The ringtone came from the few rooms at Hai Ming Apartments, but no one answered. Wenlong. Pei Hu. Quote. Sha Meili called twice, but there was no reply from the haunted house, like everything had been swallowed by the monster hiding in the dark. What's wrong with these two? She did not want to stay with Wang Heilong and Do Menglu, but she did not dare explore the place alone, so she could only look for her partner. Did something really happen? But from Wenlong's voice, it doesn't sound like he's in danger. Quote. Sha Meili stood at the door for a while before pushing open the door closest to her. 304. There's a number on the door. What does that mean? Sha Meili looked into the room. It was different from what she expected. It was very clean. How come the cleaner it is, the more worried I am? She stood at the door and called her partner's name twice, and the more she called, the more anxious she became. Where could they have gone? She took out her phone to light up the place, but when the light shone on her, her surroundings became darker, and there seemed to be something moving at the junction of the corridor. It's too dangerous to stand outside. I should go in first. Sha Meili entered room 304 and closed the door behind her. From many aspects, this place is normal. It's like a normal rental house, but the more it is decorated like this, the more likely it is to hide something scary. The boss wouldn't waste money on a useless place. She was more careful and courageous than a normal girl. She leaned against the wall and used her phone to illuminate the surroundings before she dared to take a small step forward. After several minutes, Sha Meili touched every wall in the living room and found nothing out of the ordinary. The living room isn't decorated with anything scary, which means that the other two rooms are very dangerous. Wenlong and Pei Hu probably let their guard down and got tricked when they entered the other rooms. Sha Meili gripped her phone tightly as she slowly approached the bedroom. The bedroom doesn't have a door, so there's no possibility of an actor hiding behind the door. However, there are blind spots on both sides of the door. I need to be careful. She moved slowly, but her heart was racing. When she reached the bedroom door, Sha Meili turned on the camera on her phone and reached into the bedroom to turn the camera. After a round of recording, she took out her phone. The image was dark, but she could confirm that there was no one hiding in the bedroom. There's no one in the bedroom. I almost forgot, there's still the scariest place under the bed. She retreated far into the living room, picked an angle to squat down, and shone the light from her phone under the bed. There really is nothing. Looks like I've watched too many horror movies. Sha Meili relaxed a little. If I were the one designing it, how could I let go of such a scary place like the bottom of the bed? I could set up a mechanism under the bed and make a half-body dummy. When the visitors sit on the bed, the dummy will pop out immediately. After that, Sha Meili personally went into the bedroom to check again. There were no traps installed inside, only a faint fragrance of detergent. Even the cloth used to wipe the table smells like detergent. The person who lives in this house must have mysophobia and OCD. Walking out from the bedroom, Sha Meili looked at the last room. Toilets are a common scene in horror movies, but this toilet looks very small. There are no cubicles, not even a place to hide. Moving forward slowly, Sha Meili really made the haunted house feel like she was in a desperate situation. She was very careful, and every step she took was careful. This kind of visitor was very difficult to deal with. They would try their best to see through the haunted house's scare settings. When the hidden scare points were exposed, the effect would be greatly reduced. The toilet at Hai Ming Apartments had a unique design. The mirror faced the door, so whether one walked past the toilet or entered the toilet, one's attention would be attracted by the mirror. Sha Meili was no exception. Looking at herself in the mirror, she felt slightly uncomfortable. Is it the special environment that has given me a hint? Why do I feel like the person in the mirror doesn't look like me? She walked to the door of the toilet and stopped. She shone the light from her phone on the mirror. It reflects light, so this is indeed a mirror. It's not a haunted house actor standing inside the mirror. She held the wall and entered the toilet. The space was small, and she soon walked to the mirror. This room probably hasn't been decorated yet, or the worker hiding inside has already left to scare Wenlong and Pei Hu. Sha Meili reached out to touch the mirror, and her tense nerves finally relaxed. It's just a false alarm. An empty room scared me so much. It's all Pei Hu's fault for making me so nervous. She looked at herself in the mirror, and when she got closer, she looked more normal. This is just a normal haunted house, we've been scaring ourselves. Since Pei Hu and Wenlong aren't in this room, they should be in the other two rooms. Sha Meili called Wang Wenlong again. The ringtone sounds like it's coming from next door. She tilted her head to listen, and her eyes unconsciously looked forward. At that moment, a drop of water fell from the ceiling and hit the edge of the sink. Sha Meili's attention was focused on the source of the ringtone, so she did not think about why water would drip from the ceiling. Yes, they should be in room 303 next door. Soon, another drop of water fell from the ceiling, and this one landed on the tip of Sha Meili's shoe. Before Sha Meili could react, the third drop brushed past the tip of her nose. This time, Sha Meili finally realized something. Why is this place leaking? Her brows creased together, and she lifted her head to look. On the partition above her head, there was a woman who was completely soaked. The face that was twisted in pain looked at Sha Meili silently. Her black hair was falling, and it was almost touching her eyes. No wonder I couldn't find it, it's hidden here. A drop that was thicker than water landed on Sha Meili's face. When it got closer, she realized that it was blood. Sha Meili's body softened, and she collapsed to the ground. After fixing all the mannequins' heads, Chen Ge walked out of the last classroom. Where's the mannequin I left at the entrance? The girl's mannequin disappeared, and the first thing Chen Ge did was run toward the entrance. He remembered the warning given by the black phone. Once the mannequin left the haunted house, it might go out of control. Chen Ge ran to the entrance to inspect it. He sighed in relief when he realized that the wooden boards were still the same. It's about time. It's time to bring them out. He did not even grab Dr. Skullcracker's hammer. He just walked toward the scenario in a bloody shirt. When he was halfway there, a scream that sounded like it was tearing people's throats came from the direction of the female dormitory. It sounds like it's coming from the pen spirit, but I don't think the pen spirit has such a bad temper. Her hair was disheveled, and her facial features were twisted from fear. Her face was drained of blood, and she was barefooted. The seductiveness that she had when she first entered the haunted house had disappeared. Do Menglu. When Chen Ge saw Do Menglu, the running woman saw Chen Ge as well. However, different from Chen Ge's calmness, she screamed like she had seen a ghost and turned to run. Stunned, Chen Ge touched his face. Is it because of the mask? After being scared twice in a row, Do Menglu's potential exploded. Her legs moved like the wind, and in the blink of an eye, she disappeared from Chen Ge's sight. That can't be. Chen Ge removed the mask and walked deeper into the scenario. Why is she alone? Did the 5 visitors split up? Quote. When he reached the first junction, Chen Ge still did not see Do Menglu. Oh well, I'll go take a look at the pen spirit first. I don't want to get scared again. He was about to move forward when the phone in his pocket rang. The ringtone traveled far in the quiet haunted house. In the 4th cubicle, Do Menglu did not care about her image. She crawled on the ground, and her beautiful eyes peered through the gap of the cubicle. He didn't come after me. Good. Her chest rose and fell, and Do Menglu leaned against the cubicle. Tears still lingered in her eyes. The scene from the pen spirit game flashed in her mind. The game started smoothly, but when she asked who Wang Heilong's future wife was, a nightmarish scene appeared. What's going on with the girl who was hung on the roof? She can't be an actor, and she doesn't look like a projection. The more Do Menglu thought about it, the more afraid she became. She hid alone in the small cubicle, and fear clawed at her body like invisible hands. I need to contact the others. We need to gather and save Brother Long first. Wiping away her tears, Do Menglu took out her phone to call Wang Wenlong, but there was no answer. What's going on? Did something happen to him and Pei Hu as well? Quote. After hanging up, Do Menglu called Sha Meili. Still, there was no answer. Do Menglu became even more helpless. Fear and panic made her shrink into a corner. Could something have happened to them? There are 5 of us. Quote. Her fingers trembling, Do Menglu did not give up and called Pei Hu with the last shred of hope. Please, hurry up and answer the phone. Damn fatty, didn't you like me before? How can you just watch him die? Due to her excessive nervousness, the green veins on her snow-white arms protruded, making Do Menglu look somewhat ferocious. 3 seconds passed, and Do Menglu's heart slowly sank. What are you guys doing? 5 seconds passed. She clenched her fists with the last shred of hope. 10 seconds passed. Do Menglu's expression was stiff. She felt so wrong that she wanted to cry. But in the 13th second of despair, the call was suddenly connected. F***CK. Damn fatty, why did you only pick up my call now? Do Menglu almost burst into tears. She was like a drowning person who had finally found a life-saving straw. In the deepest despair, she had encountered the most beautiful accident. Why aren't you saying anything? Brother Long has fainted. I'm now hiding in the 4th cubicle of the toilet. Come and save me. Do Menglu sounded like she was about to cry. I just saw a monster covered in blood outside. You have to be careful when you come. She was so emotional that she blurted out everything in one breath. However, there was no reply even after a long time. Pei Hu, are you there? Do Menglu held the phone with both hands and placed it next to her ear. I'm afraid if you don't speak. If you hear me, please call me. After a few seconds, there was finally a response from the other side of the phone. However, it was not Pei Hu who spoke but another low, hoarse, and completely unfamiliar voice. Okay, I'll come and find you now. The phone slipped from her fingers. When she heard that voice, Do Menglu was stunned, and her heart skipped a beat. Who am I calling? Who is answering the phone? Who is coming to find me? She looked at the phone that had fallen to the ground. She did not dare pick it up like there was a man-eating monster living inside. I need to leave before he comes in. Do Menglu slammed open the wooden door. Abandoning the phone, she rushed out of the cubicle. As she stumbled out, she saw Chen Ge, who had just entered the toilet in his bloody shirt. Ah! Do Menglu slid to the ground and crawled toward the toilet. Don't come any closer. Don't come any closer. Quote. Don't be afraid, Before Chen Ge finished, Do Menglu retreated into the toilet. Without hesitation, she crawled into one of the cubicles and used her body to block the door. Do Menglu rushed into the 5th cubicle on her own. Seeing this, Chen Ge immediately ran over. Hey, you can't go into that cubicle. Quote. Do Menglu, who was on the verge of collapse, had not fully recovered. When she opened her eyes, she saw many eyes staring at her from the other side of the cubicle. This extremely impactful scene caused all the hairs on her body to stand on end, and she couldn't even speak. It wasn't like this earlier. Do Menglu's body slammed into the door, and she fell backward. Chen Ge held her shoulders and quickly closed the door of the 5th cubicle. Are you alright? How many times have I warned you not to use your phone inside the haunted house? Quote. Chen Ge shoved the phone that was on the ground into Do Menglu's pocket, but Do Menglu used the last bit of her strength to toss the phone away. You can have this phone. If you give it to me, I will never use it again. Stop fooling around. Go and rest at the door. I'll go fetch your friend. Chen Ge dragged Do Menglu to the toilet door. Speaking of which, you guys sure are brave to act on your own. After settling Do Menglu down, Chen Ge ran into the female dormitory. Wang Heilong was lying on the chair with tears in his eyes. He looked like he was about to die. The pen spirit's main power is foresight. She's weak in other areas. Looks like this big guy is just a paper tiger. Chen Ge picked up the ballpoint pen, and after confirming that the pen was not damaged, he dragged Wang Heilong away. This is the first time the new scenario is open to the public. I have to surprise the visitors. After tossing Wang Heilong and Do Menglu together, Chen Ge entered another corridor. He explored every room. He carried Sha Meili out from room 304 and placed the female body prop that was hidden on the cubicle. Then, Chen Ge dragged Pei Hu out from under the bed in room 303. To everyone's surprise, this cowardly fatty was the most clear-headed of them all. When Chen Ge arrived, he was staring at the head at the door. According to him, when Chen Ge arrived, he had been staring at the head for 10 minutes already. Wang Wenlong sat inside the well that was only 1 meter deep. His hands were hitting the air like he was fighting something. Stand here and don't move. I'll go and get him out. Chen Ge yelled at the well, and only then did Wang Wenlong stop what he was doing. He lifted his head to look at the well with a blank expression. When the pair of lifeless eyes landed on Pei Hu, his pupils suddenly regained focus. His body trembling with anger, Wang Wenlong seemed to have broken free from some kind of restraint. He roared at Pei Hu, F***CKU. How dare you come back? Quote. Listen to me, the situation was complicated. If I didn't run, we would have both been in danger. Bullsh**T. It's true. I used myself as bait to lure the scariest thing away. If you don't believe me, you can ask the boss. Pei Hu also felt wronged. Being stared at by a human head, he had been lying under the bed for 10 minutes. Those who had not experienced that would not understand how scary it was. If you want to argue, go outside. Seeing how energetic Wang Wenlong was, Chen Ge sighed in relief. Come, give me your hand. Realizing that Chen Ge was there, Wang Wenlong stopped fighting. I can't, my lower body is numb. Numb. Chen Ge jumped into the well and cooperated with Pei Hu to get Wang Wenlong out. After rescuing Wang Wenlong, Chen Ge did not hurry to leave. He had inspected the well that morning when he was hiding the name tags. There were only 2 mannequins inside, so it was not that scary. Outside the well, Wang Wenlong and Pei Hu were still arguing. Chen Ge squatted down to study the mannequins' faces. The male mannequins' eyes were open, and they were different from that morning. The 2 mannequins inside the well should be Fan Yu's parents. If they're ghosts, they won't be so easy to deal with. They should just be lingering spirits. Chen Ge was reminded of Fei Yuliang's visit. At the time, his body had been possessed by the pen spirit. He had planned to escape, but he had been stopped by the 20 lingering spirits in the classroom. Afterwards, several lingering thoughts entered his body and controlled him to the side of the well. They seemed to be prepared to punish the brush spirit, but for various reasons, they gave up. The pen spirit made the mistake first, and the other lingering spirits came to the well to punish it. Are they planning to throw the pen spirit into the well? Chen Ge took another look at Fan Yu's parents, who were buried in the sand, and he was even more certain of his guess. The old well was probably a place to seal the remnant spirits that had committed a mistake. Now that I think about it, I feel like the spirit in that classroom has a strong sense of justice. All the lingering spirits were orphans, and after they were adopted by the old headmaster, they treated Muyang High School as their home. Now that Chen Ge's black phone had recreated the school, these lingering spirits probably just wanted to live a peaceful life there. As long as you do not cross the line, my haunted house will be your home. Chen Ge looked at the mannequins on the ground. Without another word, he jumped out of the well. When he looked into the well again, the eyes of the 2 dummies were closed. Let's go. It's time to send you out. Chen Ge helped Wang Wenlong up from the ground. The fear in the man's eyes had not faded. The only reason he had woken up earlier was because his anger had suppressed his other emotions the moment he saw Pei Hu. Dragging and dragging, with great effort, Chen Ge finally got these 5 people out of Muyang High School scenario. When the curtain at the haunted house was pulled back, the surrounding visitors all sucked in a cold breath. They could hear the screams coming from inside the haunted house, but no one expected it to be so horrible. What happened to these people? It was less than half an hour. Pentakill. Shu Shu, who was busy selling tickets with his back facing the haunted house, realized that everyone was looking behind him. He had a bad feeling, and when he turned to look, his hair stood on end. What the F***CK? How come they're all knocked out? Quote. Shu Shu stopped selling and jogged over to help Wang Heilong and Sha Meili up. They're just a little scared, and they're all sweaty. Chen Ge let go of Wang Wenlong's arm. Can you walk on your own now? Hearing Chen Ge's words, the surrounding visitors took a step back in unison. You don't even know how to walk. Did you get a little shock? Just a little sweaty. You're being too optimistic. Quote. Wang Wenlong was embarrassed by the crowd's stares. He tried to take 2 steps like he had just learned how to walk. Wenlong, Pei Hu, a muscular man in a tank top squeezed through the crowd. He had the tattoo of a wolf's head on his shoulder. His strides were large, and he rushed over to help Wang Wenlong. What's going on? I heard your screams from outside. Quote. Chen Ge glanced at the man. The 6 of them had come together, and according to their original plan, it was time for this man to enter the haunted house alone. Was it that loud? Wang Wenlong wanted to find a hole to hide in, so he shrugged off the man's hand. Seeing that Wang Wenlong was ignoring him, the man turned to Chen Ge. What did you do to my brother? Brother. Chen Ge thought the man's tone was weird, but he did not think too much of it. He took a step forward to face the visitors. I told them before they entered the haunted house that the scenarios are separated into different levels. Only after clearing the earlier scenarios and being able to withstand the scare from the earlier scenarios can they move on to the later ones. But they refused to listen and wanted to try, and the 5 of them ended up like this. Quote. Standing in front of the haunted house, Chen Ge ignored the man, and his expression turned serious. When I suggested the grading of the scenarios, many of my friends suspected that I'm trying to scam them. Actually, that's not the case. I just want to protect everyone. Because this new 2-star scenario is not suitable for everyone, its scarier rating is much higher than other haunted houses on the market. Quote. Chen Ge grabbed the gate. Western Zhejiang Haunted House has been in business for several years. From the brink of closure to now, we have a 90% positive rating. That's because we never lie to our visitors. As long as you come, we will bring you the scariest experience. But have you considered a problem? Everyone's tolerance for terror is different. We pursue the ultimate horror, and some scenarios might be too scary for those who have not been to a haunted house before. Therefore, after careful consideration, we came up with the rules to separate the scenarios into different levels. Quote. For the new rule to be implemented, it had to be accepted by the visitors, and they had to actively support it. Everything that Chen Ge was doing was to make the visitors accept this rule. On one hand, he set up a reward to encourage the visitors to visit the new scenario. On the other hand, he used Wang Heilong's group as a negative example to teach the visitors the consequences of not following the rules. To win the reward, they had to follow the rules of haunted house. They had to visit the scenarios with the lowest scream rating first, and only after clearing them could they challenge the new scenarios.